Okay, so this is a video to show you what output is generated and how I input that into my current report format. As you can see, I've got a site notes file already open with some data completed. We have 2 spec sheets, which are down here, headers 1 and 2, or 10 and 20. And we got some data in, so we've got a little bit of damage inserted. First thing I need to do when I open the file is, if necessary, click Enable Content. Otherwise, the ribbons across the top, bespoke office and site ribbons, will be greyed out. So we'll enable content. They now come to life and we can start generating reports. First thing I do is run my spell check. And I'm going to click Main Table and Spec Sheets and ask for a message. And it's already picked up one error, so it's picked up no space between loaded items, so I'm going to change that for me, table, and then worksheet 10 or header 10, and then second spec, worksheet 20, no other spaces, so that's now complete. I then run my enhanced checks routine, which, if you've read the manual or looked at other videos, you'll know it performs a number of other routines that are built into the software. So 7 routines all at once. Just click through. We've got required to proceed with the reports. Now that I'm ready to generate the report, there's several things that can be done. So the first thing I'm going to do is generate a materials list. I select the materials list option, and I'm going to generate a materials list in Word. So I'll click that one. And the reason for doing this first is it's usually a good check. If an anomaly appears on the materials list, it will potentially highlight an error or an anomaly in the table that can then be changed before you generate your main report. So as you can see down here, I've already opened up my blank report template, and here's my materials list that's been generated by SiteNote software. It's got sections for replace and rectify, various rules on that, and it's got one section per specification. So as you can see, the top one is the single bay of Dexian in the warehouse, and then we've got 8 bays of Kyma racking in the main yard, and it's added everything up and decided whether it wants to be a replace or a rectify, and there's a short disclaimer at the bottom. This short disclaimer is hard coded into the software, so any changes to that disclaimer might need to be made. Now, I generate this always as a separate file from the actual report, depending on client needs. And again, I can just double click in the header and change the name on that accordingly, and then I would save that and potentially save it as a PDF file. So that's the materials list done. So we'll pretend that we've saved that and just X out without saving. And now I can go on to generating the next part of my report. First thing I'm going to do is open up my Word template. So you can see I've got various bits and bobs in here. So I'm just going to type in here. This would be my site name and town or location. So the main town or location. Now I've got some other data that I can complete here, which is pretty self-explanatory. So the first thing I'll do on this, these templates are all set up with this contents page. As you can see, under View, I've activated the navigation pane, which is this pane on the left. By doing that, I can skip to anywhere in the report that's got a heading. So I'm going to go to 1.2, report brief and scope. So as you can see, there's a limited amount of text here. I'm just going to click underneath there for a second, and I'm going to generate a defect summary. Now, for the defect summary, we get a bunch of extra data coming out here, which was in the process of putting together a routine for. That's sort of not been carried on with the development. What I normally do, I go into all the rows, including the title row, the header row of this table, except the total row, highlight those, right click, row height, change that to 30. I found that's quite a good row height. And then I'll just tidy these up a little bit by moving these sliders accordingly. So I like to try and get things on one row if I can. Obviously, if it's got brackets, etc., then this generates a second row. And again, these can be slid around as necessary. You'll notice that this adjustable palette racking says single bay. That's counted as one bay, and 8 bays is counted as 8 bays. These aren't always entirely accurate or foolproof, so just do be careful when you're looking at bays. So for example, on cantilever racking, I will use columns. So if I've got an installation with 5 columns, I'll put 5 columns in brackets. That would come up as unconfirmed on here. I just manually change this heading to bays/columns and then enter the number of columns under the cantilever specification. So what I then do is I just drag all of this. I only go up to the reds for my reports. You might want to do something entirely different. Right click, copy, go to my document, right click, I paste that in as a graphic. So that just pastes it nicely in as a graphic. And as you can see, the text is relatively easy to read. The reason I don't just chop everything else out like this, if I delete all this, you'll see that there's a little tiny tab on the bottom right of this cell. If you add another column in there, of course, that tab is moved over to the end, and hence in the report, we haven't got that little tab there. So it just looks like a nice graphic in the report. So it just makes it nice and neat. So the next thing I want to do with site notes is to generate a full report. Now, in generating the full report, I've also filled out, or would fill out, another section called general notes. These are all, as previously noted, changeable, fully user friendly. So you can change the title, you can add sections, you can change the text in the drop down boxes as well. So for scope of inspection, again, this is fairly standardized for me, so I just tick the first two. I'm not going to read through all of them. In-house inspections, we'll say there isn't one at the moment. Expert inspections, yeah, we'll say one was carried out last year, so on and so forth. It will only print out the general notes that you've actually highlighted. You can see as soon as I've ticked a box, you will see that you get a green highlight to show that something's been entered in that section. Some sections, for example, size and layout, we'll put generally well suited. In addition, we'll put, I think this site was probably about 25% full, no more than that. So again, I've got several tick boxes in there. It will just still turn green, but as long as at least one box is ticked, I won't bother going through the rest of those to demonstrate that. So I've filled out some general notes. In reality, you'd have filled out every. I'm now ready to generate my full report. For this purposes of this one, I'm going to generate a full report standard, which is what you'll mostly be working with. And that basically generates the report introductions, which again, I'll discuss in another video, the general notes and the damage from the main table, the notes table that you can see in the background there. So let's click full report, and it's asking me what type of racking is on site. So I'm just going to put adjustable pallet racking. It won't generate a report unless you ticked one of these boxes. So I'll just click create report there for pallet racking only. You see it's running a macro, got a progress bar, and that will generate a Word file. As you can see, the Word icon is flashing down there, and you can see it's generated document 1. I then use this to basically cut and paste into my report template. Now, first things first, because these are set up with tables and my report template through XLS Design was set up some time ago, I don't actually need that first heading because otherwise it won't work on the contents table when I copy that over if I overwrite the other one. So I'm just going to scoop over that and delete that. So these are all my general notes, if you recall what we did, and I'll just go to the end of those so that sometimes that runs onto a second page. And I'll just hit Control X to cut that, go back to my document, right click, and I use the paste with keep source formatting. That keeps everything, and then I'll paste that information into there, and I can make any other notes I need to underneath that as necessary. My next section, start pressing delete, is 1.4 inspection procedures. You'll notice that I've got hardwired into this. This intro is already in the report template, so if it's only pallet racking, I essentially just ignore it. If I had some cantilever on site, I'd have ticked the cantilever box and it would have given me some more information on cantilever, which I would then, again, same as I'm doing here, I would cut that out, go to section 1.4 on my inspection procedures, and I would just paste in here. As you can see, I've already got my general procedures and pallet racking all set up in the main report template. So don't need to do that. And then just press delete. Same again, going to delete that main header off of there because I don't want to overwrite the contents page in the main report on the template. Delete that. And now this is basically just the rest of the report. So I can hit Control A to select all, Control X to cut that from there. Go back to my report template. I want section 3.2. Come down here, paste using keeping the formatting. Now, what I then do after this is I've got things that I will add into my report, such as comments and observations. So I might look down some of these items and decide if I want to add in some comments and observations. As you can see, there's not really an awful lot. I haven't put an awful lot in the general notes. So we'll go down to 3.2. The 3.2, that's my spec sheet for warehouse, single bay, and this is the damage. So again, I might want to put a note in about storing oversized stock resting on frames. So what I would then do personally is I just tab underneath and I go see comments and observations. It's 1. I'm going to scoop over that, colour that in black, and I tend to bold them in my reports. And once I've been through the whole report, and I've got 3 or 4 of those probably per report, some have more, some only 3 or 4, I would then go to my comments and observations, and I would put a comment on observation in about, stock should not be rested over pallet racking frames. What I would say is I have actually got quite a big library of comments and observations which can be issued along with my report templates. If you so wish, you can then adapt the comments and observations as you wish for your own purposes. You'll also note, again, flick back to 3.2, that we got this black dot. We call it the Lawson dot because I invented it. I tend not to put comments and observations under there. So again, if I've put some dots in, I tend not to worry too much about putting comments and observations about that. It's more specific as to what is actually recommended or required in the report. So we then, after we've seen all the damage for this single bay of Dexian, we then go down to the 8 bays of Kyma in the yard. And again, you can see we've got the generic spec sheet with all the relevant measurements on. And you'll see that there's some tidying up required here. This is particularly an untidy line. I've typed in quite a lot of text. So I'm going to cut that off there. Just delete that. Return and tab it across. So all these tabs are set up to keep everything in line. So again, we've got rack appears out of verticality, so we're going to just leave that as it is. I'm not going to worry about putting a note in about verticality. Stands to reason that racking should be vertical. Got some vegetation growing through it. Twisted uprights, I've probably got a note on that, so I might come down here and say, see comments and observations 2. Oops, 2. And again, I would colour that in black. So on and so forth through all of your specifications till you get to the end. Well, we only had 2 specs, so we're at the end. Put my comments and observations. Twists of more than 10%. The width of the upright should be rectified as soon as possible. And I've only got the 2 comments, so I'll just delete those. Delete the extra ones that I've added in. I've got some standard notes. Again, you can change the template, put whatever you want in there, really. So what I'll do is, if I want to add anything else in here, I can right-click in this bottom cell. I'm going to insert a row below, and I'm going to put something in for tarmac floors, and I'm just going to make note. Pallet racking is generally not suited for installation. Installation onto tarmac, and relevant measures should be taken in order to make the base for the racking more suitable. And again, I'll just press space under there to leave a blank row because it tidies it up. So you can change these. If they've already got a PRRS, you can say, I'll just delete that and say continue with the practice of having a PRRS. And again, for your management training, if they've had some training, you might say, well, should receive rack safety inspection management refresher training. We could put in there instead if you wanted. Refresher training at suitable intervals, so on and so forth. So that's that bit. I'll then insert the report. So my template comes with some basic photos. They're pretty obvious. They're all the same. What I do with my tablet, I've sized these to be the same size as my Surface Pro 8 takes, and then so their size, they come out, they're not distorted, and then you right click, change picture, and select wherever you're holding your photos, put in an appropriate description. After that, I'll stick my layout drawing in here. Got layout drawing, import that as a graphic. I've set up 2 pages for a layout drawing just in case there's a large site, so won't worry about that. And then the rest of this report is basically pretty much blurb. I've got report templates set up for APR. This is the APR one. I've got some set up that also include the cantilever tolerances as well. So if you've got APR and cantilever, or cantilever only, you can use the other report template. And that is basically how I put my reports together. As you can see, it's a fairly quick process. It's just a matter of generating the information you want from site notes using the appropriate reports, and then transferring the output from your general notes, your report intros, and your main table into your report, into your basic report. So that's an overview of how that works. Pretty simple. So good luck with it. And if you've got any questions, please get in touch with XLS Design or myself at Rack Experts. Thanks very much.